Hi, and welcome to a Magical Mystery Church summer rerun. This video is a rerun of an article I read a couple years ago about Alice Bailey, Lucis Trust, and all that. And I thought it would be a good video to... I'm just scrolling through Lucis Trust videos and just weird stuff I just came across. Anyhow, I've been working on the series about the World Federation, the Ecumenical Agenda, and in the last part partly it was about the United Nations, and I just thought I would add this video as a rerun after that because Alice Bailey was part of promoting the United Nations, and Lucis Trust is kind of the spiritual foundation or the spiritual department of the United Nations. So I thought this would be a good video to rerun at this time right now. And look, they're working with angels. Isn't that cute? Nope. Community building in the digital age, working with angels. What? Sounds like NAR, doesn't it? Anyhow, however, I have added a 12-minute informative video about just Alice Bailey, her little bit of her life story and her involvement with the United Nations. It is not my video. I'll leave a link below, but I found it on a channel I hadn't seen before, and it was like just a nice short little overview if you're not familiar with Alice Bailey and her involvement with the United Nations and just being the mother of the New Age and how she came to be that. So anyway, that's all. Thank you again for watching or listening.
Alice Ann Bailey, the founder of the New Age movement, formerly known as Alice Latrobe Bateman, was born in Manchester, England, on the 16th of June, 1880. She came from a very affluent, upper-class family. Her father was an engineer and a devout Christian. Even though her family was surrounded by opulence and rooted in Christianity, Alice herself was a troubled child who attempted to commit suicide on at least 3 occasions from the age of 5. She described her childhood as years of miserable questioning, of disillusionment, of unhappy discovery, and of loneliness. By the time Alice was 9 years old, she was an orphan. Both her parents had died of tuberculosis. First her mother, when she was just 6, and then her father. Alice and her sister went to live with her grandparents in Surrey. One Sunday morning, the morning of June the 30th, 1895, while on a visit to her aunt in Castromont, Scotland, something life-changing happened to Alice. She was sitting in the drawing room, and the rest of the family had gone to church. According to her words, the door opened, and in walked a tall man dressed in European clothes, very well cut, I remember, but with a turban on his head. He came in and sat down beside me. He gave Alice a mandate to do her father's work all the time. She was just 15 years old. She initially thought it was Jesus, but later discovered he was called Kut Humi, or KH, a master who is very close to the Christ. She called him one of the masters of wisdom. Alice was deeply religious, being brought up in the Episcopal Church. She later became an evangelist and a social worker. Alice traveled to India as a missionary to work in church-sponsored soldiers' homes. She was married to her first husband, Walter Evans, an Episcopal minister, and had 3 children. They later divorced. Bailey came in contact with Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, often known as Madame Blavatsky, a Russian mystic and author and co-founder of the Theosophical Society in 1875. She was the 19th century's most famous and notorious occultist and a declared Luciferian. This meeting caused Alice to break away from the traditional Christianity and open her mind and body and soul to Blavatsky's teachings, studying her book, The Secret Doctrine. In order to correctly understand Blavatsky's character, here are a few citations from her writings. Lucifer represents life, thought, progress, civilization, liberty, independence. Lucifer is the Logos, the serpent, the Savior, the celestial virgin, thus becomes at the same time the mother of gods and demons, because he is the ever-loving, beneficent divinity. But in antiquity and in reality, the name of this god is Lucifer. Lucifer is the divine and earthly light, both the Holy Spirit and Satan at the same time. In 1919, Alex experienced contact with another of the masters, Djwhal Khul, whom she called simply the Tibetan. She spent the rest of her life writing down his teachings, which she received by telepathy, and communicating them to the world. These visitations through telepathy caused her to write 25 books over 30 years. And since Alice claimed to receive all of her instructions and wisdom from her New Age and Theosophy writings from a spirit being, it is clearly evident there is a demonic inspiration to the New Age philosophies and practices. Alice remarried a 32nd degree Freemason called Foster Bailey. Together they founded the esoteric magazine at The Beacon and started a publishing company called the Lucifer Trust in 1922 to publish the books of Bailey and Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. The name was changed to the Lucis Trust after the original name Lucifer was frowned upon by many. The Lucis Trust, by which it is still known today, is the publishing house that handles all of the United Nations documents. It is situated in the UN Plaza in New York. It's open to the public and has a vast range of books that focus on yoga and spiritual meditation. Alice and Foster Bailey also started a group called World Goodwill, an official non-governmental organization within the United Nations. The specified aim of this group is to cooperate in the world of preparation for the reappearance of the Christ. Readers should bear in mind that the reappearance of the Christ, as stated in this literature, is not to be confused with the biblical concept of the second coming of Jesus Christ, but refers to the world teacher who is expected to lead humanity into a forthcoming golden age on earth. Alice quotes her spirit guide, the Tibetan, as she refers to him. The Tibetan has asked me to make it clear that when he's speaking of the Christ, he's referring to his official name as the head of the hierarchy, that Christ works for all men irrespective of their faith. He does not belong to the Christian world any more than to the Buddhist or to the Mohammedan or any other faith. There is no need for any man to join the Christian church in order to be affiliated with Christ. The requirements are to love your fellow men, lead the disciplined life, recognize the divinity in all faiths, in all beings, and rule your daily life with love. In 1994, in a Lucis Trust World Goodwill newsletter, that publication reported the creation of a UN interfaith organization called the Temple of Understanding, the goal being to create a spiritual UN. Bailey wrote a book in 1957 entitled The Externalization of the Hierarchy. The hierarchy are the spiritual master entities that run the world from behind the scenes. This is the base that the UN starts from when making decisions. I will quote from the Lucis Trust website, a statement by Alice Bailey. The Christ has been 2,000 years the supreme head of the church, invisible, the spiritual hierarchy composed of disciples of all faiths. He recognizes and loves those who are not Christian, but who retains their allegiance to their founders, the Buddha, Muhammad, and others. He cares not what the faith is if the objective is love of God and of humanity. If men look for Christ, the Christ who left his disciples centuries ago, they will fail to recognize the Christ who is in the process of returning. The Christ has no religious barriers in his consciousness. It matters not to him of what faith a man may call himself. The Son of God is on his way, and he cometh not alone. His advanced God is already here, and the plan which they must follow is already made clear. Let recognition be the aim. In her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy, Alice Bailey writes, there will not be any dissociation between Universal Church, the Sacred Lodge of all true Masons, and the inner circles of the esoteric societies. In this way, the goals and the work of the United Nations shall be solidified, and the Church of God, led by all religions and by all spiritual groups, shall put an end to the great heresy of separateness. What did Christ say to us? He said, "Be thou separate, come out of them, be separate." Unfortunately, today, many pastors and well-known people are being deceived by the United Nations. They are being invited to join what is called the World Peace Movement, and yet Jesus clearly states that there's no peace without him. What does the present priest of the UN have to say? The United Nations is the way to oneness that leads to the supreme oneness. It is like a river flowing towards the source, the ultimate source. The United Nations becomes for us the answer to world suffering, world darkness, and world ignorance. The inner vision of the United Nations is a gift supreme. This vision the world can deny for 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 years. So what is the New Age agenda? Number 1, merge God and nature. Eugenics, number 2. Number 3, eradicate male-female distinction. Number 4, world peace and nuclear disarmament. Number 5, one world economic and financial system. Number 6, one world government. And number 7, one world religion. How do you lead the world to unite and bring religions together? Education. The world will not change and find peace if there is not a new education. These are the 10 points. The 10-point charter of Alice Bailey, adopted by the UN. And the purpose of the 10 points is to change Judeo-Christian tradition, or to redeem the nations from Judeo-Christian tradition. Number 1, take God and prayer out of the education system. Number 2, reduce parental authority over the children. Number 3, destroy the Judeo-Christian family structure or the traditional Christian family structure. Number 4, if sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Number 5, make divorce easy and legal. Free people from the concept of marriage for life. Number 6, explore different kinds of sexuality. Number 7, debase art. Make it run mad. Number 8, use media to promote and change mindsets. Number 9, create an interfaith movement. And number 10, get governments to make all these laws and get the church to endorse these changes.
Take two. I just read this whole article and then it wasn't recording. I thought it was. Anyway, I'm reading Lucius Trust, Alice Bailey, World Goodwill, and the False Light of the World by Terry Melanson. This is from 2001, last update, May 8th, 2005. I'm reading this as a follow-up to my Constance Cumby series about the family hijacking evangelicalism and the networking between New Age and Christian evangelical organizations and stuff. And this can stand alone, but I just thought it was important to really consider, like, what does this mean? How bad is it to be yoked up with New Agers? And this is why I'm reading this article today. Alice Ann Bailey, a leading disciple of the Russian theosophist Madame Helena Blavatsky, formed the Lucifer Publishing Company in 1920. 1922 saw the organization's name changed to Lucius Trust though the advancement of the Luciferian beliefs remained true. Beliefs that, in Blavatsky's words, oppose the materialism of science and every dogmatic theology, especially the Christian, which the chiefs of the society regard as particularly pernicious. Lucius Trust promulgates the work of an ascended master who was working through Alice Bailey for some 30 years. The Lucius Trust Publishing Company and their many fronts and organizations worship an externalized hierarchy of ascended masters who carry out the work of a Luciferian master plan for the establishment of a permanent age of Aquarius ruled by one Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the World. Lucius Trust is a powerful institution that enjoys consultative status with the United Nations, which permits it to have a close working relationship with the UN, including a seat on the weekly sessions, but most importantly, influence with powerful businesses and national leaders throughout the world. Through its founding of World Goodwill, Lucius Trust is aggressively involved in promoting a globalist ideology. Authors and participants in its various conferences read like a who's who of globalist insiders. Featured on its website, for example, is the Universal Declaration of Human Responsibilities, put forth in April 1998 as a companion document to the notorious UN Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Signatories to the World Goodwill document include Helmut Schmidt, former Chancellor of West Germany, Malcolm Fraser, former Australian Prime Minister, Oscar Arias Sanchez, former Prime Minister of Costa Rica, Shimon Peres, Robert McNamara, Paul Volcker, and Jimmy Carter. It is as much a political organization as an occult religious one, and that's from New Age Roots by Stephen Bonta. Lucius Trust is run through an international board of trustees whose membership is said to have included John D. Rockefeller, Norman Cousins, Robert S. McNamara, Thomas Watson Jr., IBM, former U.S. Ambassador to Moscow, Henry Clausen, Grand Commander of the Supreme Council, 33rd degree Southern District Scottish Rite, and Henry Kissinger. This would then tie Bailey's influential occult organization into the international conspiracy of elitists, including the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergs, and the Trilateral Commission. I've been able to confirm some of these connections through Lucius Trust's involvement in the Windsor International Bank and Trust Company, where on its site, the Windsor Bank plainly states that it's a member of, advisor to, affiliate of, friend of, benefactor of, or contributor to the following organizations, to name several. I'm just going to read some of these. International Fund for Development, the Hall Family Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the WHO, Habitat for Humanity, the Lucius Trust, NGO, United Nations, National Resources Defense Council, Capital Missions Company, Investor Circle, the Coca-Cola Foundation, Fellowship for International Education, International Monetary Agency, International Center for Educational Advancement, Christian Children's Fund worldwide, BAMPAC, Black America's Political Action. And there's more. You can pause if you want to read the rest of them. Important development. After I posted this discovery, the Windsor Bank promptly changed their page and deleted all traces of the connections which I exposed above. As of this writing, they no longer have a web presence. I've been able to salvage a copy thanks to Google's cache of the page as it appeared when I wrote this Lucis Trust expose. Here is the original. One disturbing aspect is the blatant targeting of children. Lucis Trust directs an activity called Triangles in Education, which is partnered with groups that make some contribution to the task of laying the foundations for the new education. This, according to Bailey, is part of the overall work of the new group of world servers, a band of obedient workers and servers of the Word. The Word being the teachings of her channeled master, Djwhal Khul, through her voluminous occult works. The Word has been heeded by the likes of Robert Mueller, former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and winner of the UNESCO Prize for Peace Education in 1989, for his World Core curriculum. He said, "The underlying philosophy upon which the Robert Mueller School is based will be found in the teachings set forth in the books of Alice A. Bailey by the Tibetan teacher Djwhal Khul." The overshadowing. Alice Bailey was born on June 16, 1880, in the city of Manchester, England. She was raised in an Orthodox Christian family, which she would say later made her very unhappy and a bad-tempered little girl. Life was not worth living, she said, and the feeling of worthlessness and a certain amount of curiosity about life and death led her to attempt suicide 3 times before she was even 15. I'll just leave it there. At the age of 15, her first mystical encounter occurred while her family had gone to church. While she was in a room reading, a man wearing a turban on his head suddenly entered her room. Startled and not being able to say a word, an obvious out-of-place character in the 19th century Manchester, this stranger spoke to her. He told me there was some work that it was planned that I could do in the world, but that it would entail changing my disposition considerably. I would have to give up being such an unpleasant little girl and must try to get some measure of self-control. My future usefulness to him and to the world was dependent on how I handled myself and the changes I could manage to make. He said that if I could achieve real self-control, I could then be trusted, and that I would travel all over the world and visit many countries, doing your master's work all the time. He added that he would be in touch with me at intervals of 7 years apart. And that's from the unfinished autobiography by Alice Bailey, 1951. This was to be Alice Bailey's first contact with her master Kuthumi. These contacts with secret chiefs, familiar spirits, angels, and ascended masters is a common theme in the annals of history, and has been the origin of many religious, prophetic, and occult movements throughout the centuries. Zoroaster, Muhammad, John Dee, Francis Bacon, Aleister Crowley, Helena Blavatsky, Joseph Smith, Edward Casey, and Benjamin Creme immediately come to mind. Pause. I just heard today about the family, the fellowship, the Washington, D.C. group. The guy who started it also had a vision or something to get him started. Sorry, that's on my mind. In 1917, after the breakup of her first marriage, she moved to the United States, where she was introduced to the teachings of Theosophy. It was during this period that she had met and married her husband Foster Bailey, 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. She turned out to be a good pupil. Bailey soon rose through the ranks and became the editor of the American Theosophists newspaper. For the last 125 years, New Age leaders worldwide have followed the false light of Theosophy. They now whisper sweet lies into the itching ears of the powerful. Politicians, media moguls, UN officials, foundation grant makers, and Anglican bishops. As the West moves into a post-Christian era, the influence of the New Age movement grows. And that's from a comprehensive expose on the New Age movement by Lee Penn. This encounter with her fated second master and soon-to-be writing partner for an international esoteric movement occurred in 1919 while having a quiet time on a hill close to her house. She heard a note of music sounding everywhere, which was followed by a voice, Joelle Kuhl, that asked her if she was willing to write some books. Having refused, saying that she wouldn't engage in any psychic practices, the voice gave her 3 weeks to reconsider. Alice completely forgot about the subject when the voice made its appearance as scheduled. Agreeing to give it a try for a few weeks, the first chapters of Initiation, Human and Solar, were written. After about a month, Alice got scared. Refusing to do any more work, the master Joelle Kuhl told her to discuss it with her master Kuthumi. Kuthumi confessed that it was, in fact, him that told DK to contact her, and he gave Alice permission to proceed, after giving Mrs. Bailey the proper technique for enhanced telepathic communication. Between 1919 and 1949, her death, she produced 24 books, including an autobiography. 19 of these books were supposedly written by her Tibetan master, DK. During the intervening years, Alice Bailey spent most of it working out what she referred to as the plan, with a capital P, the results of which influenced the birth of many New Age groups. The Church Universal and Triumphant, Benjamin Krem's The Terra Center, the Robert Mueller School, and the Temple of Understanding, to name a few. The Networks of Light, Lucis Trust. 50 years at the United Nations Plaza, currently located on Wall Street in New York, Lucis Trust provides worldwide financial support for the Arcane School, World Goodwill, Triangles, Lucis Publishing, Lucis Productions, Lucis Trust Libraries, and the new group of world servers, and maintains the UN Meditation Room. I should make a video on that. The Arcane School, founded in 1923, the school gives correspondence courses in meditation and the occult from its branches in New York, Geneva, London, and Buenos Aires. World Goodwill, founded in 1932, the organization is recognized by the United Nations today as an NGO. World Goodwill works directly with the World Federalists and is part of the work to externalize the hierarchy of illumined minds, which will usher in an age of Maitreya. Triangles. Founded in 1937, Triangles is the name of a global network of cells whose members pray a great invocation, especially on the full moon, when members of Triangle can be influenced by the astrological signs of the zodiac. We haven't even scratched the surface yet on the influence of Bailey and her master's teachings. Let's look at a comparison by two writers who talk about Lucis Trust's World Goodwill, which when compared illustrate both sides of Lucis' agenda: the manipulation of politics towards a new world order and the manipulation through occult means to manifest the plan of the hierarchy. From Dark Majesty by Tex Mars, page 139 through 140. I'm going to skim over this. It is a very long list of a lot of different organizations. The Sacred Brotherhood has developed the social and political art of networking to a fine science. World Goodwill, in its newsletter of 1986, number 2, listed a number of groups that have participated in its World Service Forum. Such groups include those that are connected with World Goodwill centers in London, New York, and Geneva. The list is absolutely mind-boggling in its scope. In London, groups that have actively participated include the United Nations Association, the Teilhard Center, the International Broadcasting Trust, the Buddhist Society, the Scientific and Medical Network, St. James Church, Piccadilly, Emerson College, International Health Research Network, Habitat International Council, the Schumacher Society, the New Economics Foundation, World Health Organization, Peace Through Unity, the British Holistic Medical Association, the World Wildlife Fund, and World College. I'm just going to scan, and you can read this, and you can pause it if you would like. UNICEF, Habitat for Humanity. In Geneva, Switzerland, we find the following groups to be participants in the programs of World Goodwill: the International Commission of Jurists, Pax Christi International, Transnational Perspectives, Amnesty International, the United Nations University for Peace, and the Bureau for Affairs of Non-Governmental Organizations of the United Nations Organization. And this is from Target Faith and Freedom. World Goodwill is a non-governmental organization, NGO, accredited with the United Nations, while its parent, Lucis Trust, enjoys the prestigious consultative status afforded those non-governmental organizations on the roster of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Increasingly powerful deep-pocket NGOs, which are neither elected nor accountable, are received as the voice of civil society. Those NGOs which the United Nations selectively elevates to consultative status are called upon by ECOSOC as advisors, representative of civil society. Both World Goodwill and Lucis Trust are engaged in Earth Charter advocacy. World Goodwill's spirituality is patently pagan. The following declaration is taken from their promotional material. During both the full moon and new moon periods, there is a similar emphasis on the work of energy distribution and meditation. We consciously align with the rhythmic pattern of energy flow each month. We become a part of a planetary meditative process carried forward at all levels of consciousness and with great creative potential for anchoring the seeds of the coming civilization and the germ of the new culture. If World Goodwill so unblushingly advocates neo-pagan meditative practices, its overt promotion of an occult plan for the governing of the universe is nothing short of chilling. Quote, there is the inner government of the planet known under such different names as the spiritual hierarchy, the Society of Illumined Minds, or Christ and his Church. According to various religious traditions, humanity is never left without spiritual guidance or direction under the plan. The widespread expectation that we approach the age of Maitreya, as it is known in the East, when the world teacher and present head of the spiritual hierarchy, the Christ, will reappear among humanity to sound the keynote of the new age. There are millions of mentally alert men and women in all parts of the world who are on rapport with the plan and work to give it expression. They are people in whom the consciousness of humanity as one interdependent unit is alive and active. These beliefs give a new dimension to spiritual reality. They provide opportunity for cooperation with the spiritual evolution of humanity. There is no group so likely to ensure that humanity achieves this most difficult goal as the men and women of goodwill, requiring only courage to initiate action to prepare for the new world order. In considering the above information, one can't help but wonder whether these organizations, which are aligned with Lucis Trust, believe in the plan, as Goodwill put it, to initiate action to prepare for the New World Order. I believe that they do, and it is my intention to prove that conviction throughout this site, and specifically that it is a spiritual plan, a plan that, if giving a thorough evaluation from their own writings, can be seen as nothing less than Satan's attempt to implement a totalitarian demonic throne upon the earth and humanity's forced worship through Luciferic rites. For when the Great One appears, Master Joao Kuhl said through Alice Bailey, he will take the mysteries religion preserved by Freemasonry and make them public. Pause. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. It's already happening. That's why the movies are all occult and the music, and that's what's going on in the church. It's all about making the mysteries public. And a lot of people pick this up and absorb it just through culture, and they don't even really know where these ideas come from. So that's why it's hard to sometimes know some of this stuff, but I think there are people, even Constance Cumby said she would show New Agers her materials and they would change their mind because they didn't know where all this was coming from and how evil and wicked and where it all leads to. Lucis Trust has truly become a powerhouse for the New Age ideal, the transformation of society by and through occult initiatory means. The respect that Bailey's teachings receive and the reverence for her master is without equal. She has successfully pulled the wool over the eyes of many concerning the true meaning and source of her teachings. What exactly is the teaching and message delivered by her master? This will be the subject examined in part 2. The secret doctrine. In the occult, Satan, or Lucifer, has traditionally been associated with the sun, the harbinger of spiritual light. Esoteric philosophy teaches that it is this great being, not the God of the Old Testament, that was the true redeemer and benefactor of mankind in the Garden of Eden. There's a few works in the occult that have stood the test of time and have become Bibles in their own right. These are revered and studied by all seekers on the path. The works of Aleister Crowley, Alice Bailey, Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Albert Pike, Manly P. Hall, Benjamin Creme, Castaneda, Kenneth Grant, and Eliphas Levi, and many others, laying a foundation of prepackaged self-enlightenment. Some claim to be revealing great esoteric knowledge passed down through sects and orders long forgotten. Other works claim to be channeled from secret chiefs or ascended masters. I offer these quotes from Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine in order to show the typical reversal philosophy espoused. Blavatsky's philosophy also serves to illustrate where Bailey first encountered her heretical views in the first place. As we will see in part 2, Madame Blavatsky taught her pupil well. Their spiritual philosophies are virtually identical. Okay, so here are these quotes by Madame Blavatsky. Once the key to Genesis is in our hands, it is the scientific and symbolic Kabbalah which unveils the secret. The great serpent of the Garden of Eden and the Lord God are identical. Yeah, so Blavatsky gets a lot of things from Kabbalah. This is hard to read. Anyway, stand in awe of him and sin not. Speak his name with trembling. It is Satan who is the God of our planet and the only God. When the church, therefore, curses Satan, it curses the cosmic reflection of God. In this case, it is but natural to view Satan, the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harbinger of light, bright, radiant Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automaton, Adam, created by Jehovah as alleged, and he who was first to whisper, "And the day ye eat thereof, ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil," can only be regarded in the light of a Savior, an adversary to Jehovah. He still remains in esoteric truth the ever-loving messenger who conferred on us spiritual instead of physical immortality. Satan or Lucifer represents the active, centrifugal energy of the universe. In a cosmic sense, fitly is he and his adherents consigned to the sea of fire, because it is the sun, the fount of life in our system, where they are petrified and churned up to rearrange them for another life. That sun, which as the origin of the active principle of our earth, is at once the home and the source of the mundane Satan. One has to keep in mind where this heresy originated. Blavatsky claimed to have received it from disembodied spirits called secret chiefs. These interdimensional or demonic beings seem to be appealing directly to the intellect. Our intelligence, after all, is a thing of great pride, isn't it? And where would we be had it not been for the benefactor, the serpent of old?
then the obvious conclusion would have Jehovah being the adversary. This twisted sensibility is very appealing to those who practice the occult. It also shows that in the end, when all the cards are laid on the table, it's always about that one selfish being already condemned and hell-bent on bringing mankind with him. Reading Part 2 of Alice Bailey and Master Joel Kuhl, A Satanic Communion. By Terry Melanson, 2001, last update, May 7th, 2005. Quote, preparation too must be given to the developing of higher psychic powers. Hospitals and schools will appear under the direct guidance of the masters. Teachers will train the minds of pupils to be responsive to direct inspiration from above, unquote. The externalization of the hierarchy. Yikes. Okay, I'm pausing before I even start. This is what's happening, for example, at Bethel Church with the Toronto blessing, with all that stuff. All these laying on of hands and all these manifestations. They are training people to be responsive to direct inspiration from above. That's what I believe. That is my opinion. And now I will read. I'm sorry. As we have seen in Part 1, Lucis Trust is today intimately connected with elite politics through its world goodwill. We haven't yet, however, examined the occult teachings of Bailey as they were related by her master Joel Kuhl. Her 24 books, combined with the Beacon magazine, Triangles, and the Arcane School, indoctrinate students into what Bailey describes as the ageless wisdom teachings. The Arcane School, founded in 1922, boasted 20,000 graduates by 1954. This occult university is more active than ever and continues to be the main training ground for New Age disciples. The bulk of these occult teachings in Bailey's books are from her channeled Tibetan master. I'm calling him DK. Okay, I'm sick of saying his name. Joel Kuhl. Bleh. I'm sorry. DK. I'm starting over. The bulk of these occult teachings in Bailey's books are from her channeled Tibetan master, DK. The plan, according to the hierarchy of ascended masters, through a series of group initiations and group meditative techniques, the hierarchy directs the new group of world servers to implement a new world religion of which humanity as a whole can aid the will of the planetary logos. Emphasis should be laid on the evolution of humanity, so says Master DK through Bailey, with particular attention to its goal, perfection. And that's from the externalization of the hierarchy. The object is the helping of the great ones and the rendering to them of that intelligent assistance which will make their plans for humanity materialize. One way to materialize the hierarchy's plan for humanity is through Lucis Trust Triangle networks. Their goal is the practice of occult meditation, the science of energy flow and energy relationships. Lucis Trust states that occult meditation is a means of consciously and purposefully directing energy from a recognized source to the creation of some specific effect. International participants sit quietly for a few minutes and link mentally with other members of their triangle or triangles. They invoke the energies of light and goodwill, visualizing these energies as circulating through the three focal points of each triangle and pouring through the networks of triangles surrounding the planet. At the same time, they repeat the great invocation. Her 30-year telepathic connection to Master DK was what some would unhesitatingly call demonic possession. Her husband, Foster Bailey, said, during the long course of the work, the minds of the Tibetan and Alice and Bailey became so closely attuned that they were, in effect, so far as much of the production of the teaching was concerned, a joint single projecting mechanism. The introduction to cosmic fire. The technique is called in the occult the overshadowing. a euphemism for demonic possession, or as Bailey liked to call it, the science of impression. The science of impression is what she calls being demonically possessed. You really do have to decode what they're saying. Moreover, the hierarchy has overshadowed many in the intervening years up to the close of the century. The growing modern practice of channeling and psychic astral projection bears out this prediction of a half century ago. Quote, "These methods of overshadowing will largely be the ones used by the great Lord and his masters at the end of the century, and for this reason they are sending into carnation in every country disciples who have the opportunity offered them to respond to the need of training men and women to recognize the higher psychism and the true inspiration and mediumship, and to do this scientifically. In 50 years' time, the need for true psychics and conscious mediums, such as HPB, that's Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, will be very great if the master's plans are to be carried through to fruition, and the movement must be set on foot in preparation for the coming of him for whom all nations wait." That's from a treatise on cosmic fire. 10 seed groups. Early on, Master DK informed Bailey of the hierarchy's plan for the 10 seed groups. These seed groups were to infiltrate all sectors of society. That sounds familiar. And be esoterically anchored with new approaches to divinity. I have no doubt that today's New Age movement is the result of the hierarchy's scattering of the seed, as Bailey put it, and that today's arguably open pagan society can largely be traced to this occult plan. The 10 seed groups were embryonic, like germinating seed. Through their occult practices, these 10 groups would work directly under the inspiration from the hierarchy via the focused minds of the group. Unquote, from Alice Bailey's Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 1. The 10 seed groups consist of and carry out their mission in following ways. These are excerpts from the new group of world servers. Number 1, telepathic communicators. The summary of the work is telepathic communication from soul to soul, from mind to mind, through integration between humanity and hierarchy, intergovernment of the planet, through science of impression. Okay, so that's people having contact with demons and becoming possessed. Trained observer, summary of work, dissipation of world glamour, illusion, and Maya through illumination. I looked up glamour and it means enchantment. So, you have to decode. Magnetic healer, summary of work. Through magnetic living, through laws of life, laws of health, and right human relationships, through continuity of consciousness. Number 4, educators in the New Age. Summary of work. Education through inflow of the light of knowledge into instinctual man, through inflow of the light and of the wisdom into intelligent man, through applied knowledge, expressed wisdom, and occult understanding in spiritual man. Political organizers. International understanding through communication of the divine political will into races and nations, linking the department of the Manu, the ruler of the human race, with men. Workers in the field of religion, summary of work, through transcendental mysticism and through transcendental occultism, through transcendental religion. This reminds me of contemplative prayer. I'm putting my own thoughts in here, sorry. Scientific servers. I know there's 10 here, but this reminds me a lot of the 7 Mountain Mandate too. I'm sorry. Scientific server, summary of work. Through development of the new hypothesis to substantiate the next step forward, through sensitive reaction to spiritual energies and forces, through release of energy to relate spirit and matter and precipitate the divine plan. Psychologist, summary of work. Through relationships of the human kingdom to the subhuman and the superhuman kingdom, through a study of the divine plan for the 5 kingdoms of nature. Financiers and economists, summary of work. Through a study of the nature of prana or etheric energy, through a study of deflection of this form of concretized energy into constructive channels and ways of light, through a study of the law of supply and demand. And creative workers, summary of work. Through linking life and form, through philosophical relationships of synthesis and the plan. Truly an occult conspiracy of the highest kind, and worrisome at the very least for anyone, both Christian and non-believers alike. When you factor in what I've shown in part 1, Lucius Trust's influence over international elite politics is downright chilling. The most revealing part of the seed groups is the fact that the political organizers link the department of the Manu, the ruler of the human race, with men. Okay. The political organizers link the department of the Manu with men. The Bible already tells us that the ruler of the human race is Satan. John 12:31 and 14:30, Ephesians 6:12, Luke 4:6-7, 2 Corinthians 4, and then it follows that the department of Manu must be but another name for the deceiver. This is indeed the case. In Frontier Science, Social Change, Paul Von Ward relates, Hermetic principles comprise part of a body of knowledge allegedly given to humans by an advanced being more than 5,000 years ago. He has been known by various names, including Thoth or Seth in Egypt, Manu in India, Hermes in Greece, and Lucifer or Satan in Judeo-Christian tradition, unquote. That's Paul Von Ward. Wow. Politics is just bad. I'm sorry. Idolatrous incantation. Invocation, a formula for conjuring. Mantra, a mystical formulation of invocation or incantation. As mentioned before, the Great Invocation is sounded while the triangle networks of light workers meditate to cause the energy flow of the hierarchy to enter and influence humanity. The present version, giving in 1945 as shown above, was the 3rd installment of a series of invocations given to Bailey by Djwhal Khul. According to Lucius Trust, the Great Invocation, if given widespread distribution, can be to the New World Order religion what the Lord's Prayer has been to Christianity. The wording was intentional, so that Christians would not become suspicious. In Discipleship in the New Age 2, page 165, we find, I, Djwhal Khul, have so worded and rendered the invocation so that the Christian world, through its churches, may not find it impossible to use, unquote. This represents a calculated deception on DK's part. On page 150 and 156, we learn, quote, it can be so presented to the masses everywhere. The general public will be prompted to take it up and will use it widely. The meaning of this invocation has been expressed in terms which are understandable in a measure to the average person because of its familiar wording based on many scriptural terms. But the true inner implications and significances are not superficially apparent. They mean one thing to the ordinary man. They mean another thing to the man upon the probationary path. These words mean still another thing to the disciple. To initiates and to the senior members of the hierarchy, they convey a still higher and more inclusive significance. Unquote. That is indeed the case, and the actual words used are giving a totally opposite meaning when examined under the light of biblical scripture. And compared point for point with Bailey's writings, she often quotes scripture, the interpretations of which are given by her channeled master. See P.H. Robert A. Herman's webpage, A Modern Manifestation of Absolute Evil, for his paper called A Scientific Analysis of the Writings of Alice A. Bailey and Their Applications for a Treatment in D.K. Bailey's Deception. I did read that, and it's like 5 parts because it's really long. I have an Alice Bailey playlist if you want to listen to it. Just take your time because we shouldn't listen to this kind of stuff too much. Okay, so here's what these words actually mean. When you analyze what she is saying, I'm talking, it's me. This is what her words actually mean. Light equals Luciferian enlightenment. God equals Satan. It really does. Stream forth means overshadow. Overshadow means demon possessed. Stream forth means demon possessed. Love equals various forms of scripturally defined evil or generally hatred. Christ equals Antichrist. Little wills of men equals the claimed unintelligent, weak, and inferior desires of individuals, especially those that follow conservative Judeo-Christian doctrine. Purpose equals to prepare for the appearance of the Antichrist. Masters equal demons or demon-controlled individuals. I think it could also be like fallen angels, which aren't probably the same as demons. Anyway, race of men equals humanity as ruled by Lucifer. Plan equals complete domination in preparation for and after the appearance of the Antichrist. The plan. So for anybody out there that's still following the plan or trusting the plan, please stop. Seal the door where evil dwells. That's in the invocation. I will not read it. It's very evil, although it sounds nice. Seal the door where evil dwells equals violent, if necessary, eradication of those that follow Judaism, conservative Christianity, some liberal Christianity, and other similar Orthodox religions. Note, this is so because of the separativeness of these religious views. Joel Kuhl calls this evil, and that it must be eradicated for the hierarchy's plans of the New Age, New World religion to proceed. In multiple passages, DK identifies the Jews and Christians as the spirit of separateness. And pause again. I've talked about this in some other videos where I read other things about the hatefulness towards separateness. And I wanted to remind that the word holy means to be separate. To be separated. So their idea of evil is holy. Power equals often hideous and actual destructive forces. The Great Invocation has now been translated into 50 languages and is the mantra of the New Age. It has even received the attention of world dignitaries at the UN, where it has been sounded at so many official conferences and during the opening ceremonies in 1992 at the UN's Earth Summit in Rio. During a talk given by Ida Urso at Lucis Trust Arcane School Conference in 1995, the connections between the UN and the Great Invocation were explained. Quote, "It is no coincidence that we are celebrating both the 50th anniversary of the Great Invocation and the United Nations. Both in different ways are pivotal to the plan. Let us together complete the triangle of light. Let us contemplate that world body, the hope of humanity, which was conceived just 50 years ago under the impulse of the three spiritual festivals falling on March 28th, April 27th, and May 26th. It was on April 25th, 1945, 2 days previous to the full moon of Taurus and the festival of Wesak. Note: the best time to recite the invocation, according to Lucis Trust, as the energies of the hierarchy are in alignment with the earth. That delegates from 50 nations met in San Francisco for a conference known officially as the United Nations Conference on International Organization. On this period, the Tibetan master tells us, not for nothing is this conference being held during the 5 days of the Wesak full moon. It will be a time of supreme difficulty in which the forces of light will face the forces of selfishness and separativeness. It seemed the dreaded UN was a spiritual undertaking in alignment with the Luciferic light. Whenever the invocation is recited according to Lucis Trust booklet on the subject, that individual allies himself with the spiritual hierarchy, whether he knows it or not. And in Discipleship, page 156, Bailey writes, it embodies the divine intent and summarizes the conclusions of the thinking of the planetary logos. Luciferic initiation. Some background is necessary on chakras and the Kundalini in order to proceed further with this expose. In Hindu occult practice, the main root of the New Age movement, there are 7 major centers for Kundalini energy. By occult methods using meditation, drugs, visualization, yoga, and whatever means necessary, initiates seek to awaken the sleeping fiery serpent Kundalini for a higher state of consciousness. This Kundalini energy is visualized as an entwined serpent which rises from the base of the spine to enlighten and eventually dissolve the ego, to become a God incarnate, thereby preventing further incarnation on the physical plane. The New Age disciples believe in reincarnation and are taught by the demonic hierarchy that this is the only way to stop the endless cycle of karma, to evolve into gods, as in Genesis 3:5. That this is the goal and the techniques vary, but as one ascends through the 7 progressive chakras, each is an initiation into a higher consciousness, until finally, when you reach the point of union with Sanat Kumara, Shiva, Vishnu, Lord of the world, or what they most blasphemously call the Christ consciousness. Satan's deception is that through each successive chakra, the occult initiate actually does perceive a shift in consciousness, which to him, it seems, is a progressive shift. The occultist now feels his contact and psychic telepathy with the hierarchy getting stronger. As he continues, the initiate invariably reaches a point of no return. There is no turning back, and all those doubts he failed to heed, being the right path or not, are finally revealed to him. It's too late. They're his. This is called Luciferic initiation. Tex Mars put it best when he wrote, these feelings voiced by so many who have received a Luciferic initiation are significant. They point to 2 inescapable facts. Number 1, the initiate recognizes that he is coming into close contact with dark, evil forces, and a spirit of fear engulfs him. And number 2, after the initiation, his mind is patently altered. This is what New Agers call the Kundalini or Shaktipat experience, technically termed a paradigm shift or worldview shift. Shaktipat, that's when they touch you and you start laughing or crying or acting drunk and falling down. That's what that is. It sounds familiar. Bailey's planetary logos. For the Greeks, the logos was the divine pattern found in humans. the plural of logic. The Hebrews had a similar view, which they called Dabar. Dabar was also a representation of a divine pattern, and they thought that it could only be found in certain things. An example would be Moses receiving the word logos from God through the Ten Commandments. It was also known as the means through which man can receive the wisdom of God. The Apostle John was aware of this concept, and he used it to appeal to both the Greeks and the Hebrews of his time. In the beginning was the Word, Logos, and the Word, Logos, was with God, and the Word, Logos, was made flesh and dwelt among us. It was a particularly forceful way of teaching the divinity of Jesus as the Logos. Consequently, this plural aspect in the Logos was to be a defining factor for the Church's teaching of the Trinity. Jesus has always been the Logos. So when Bailey's teacher and mentor H.P. Blavatsky wrote, actually the serpent was the Lord God himself, who, as the Ophis, the Logos, or the bearer of divine creative wisdom, taught mankind to become creators in their turn, unquote. Christians must have been horrified. Bailey's own planetary Logos carries on in the Luciferic tradition. She didn't call her organization Lucifer Trust for nothing. And so it is. Alice Bailey's Trinity. Notice that Lucifer is the ruler of humanity. He's also identified with something called the planetary throat center. This is a clue that she is talking about chakras. Lucifer, or rather Luciferic energy, is released when the fifth chakra, throat, is awakened. Notice how Sanat, Satan, Kumara, is also identified with the spiritual pineal gland and planetary head center. This would correspond to the seventh chakra. Chakras are also called energy centers, so Bailey's planetary centers fits within the chakra teaching, and Bailey calls her Logos Logoic Kundalini. What's more, each chakra is a Logos unto itself. Bailey says that the planetary Logos is called the first Kumara, the one initiator, and he came to this planet from Venus, an allusion to Lucifer and his traditional association with Venus, son of the morning. Elsewhere, she writes that the goal for the planetary Logos is God consciousness, and that the illuminating light of the fifth Logos, Lucifer, fifth throat chakra, is felt at the third initiation. And she makes another statement that the Venus scheme was signalized by the Venusian planetary Logos on his fifth chain or chakra. According to Hindu tradition, each chakra center also has its associated color. If you look at the drawing at the top right, you can see that the fifth chakra, Lucifer, is given the color blue. Below it is a representation of the throat chakra bathed in its characteristic blue light. Blue light. Look familiar? It should. The Reader's Digest full-page ad I've shown above also has a blue glow. In part 1, I displayed the Lucis Trust logo, and it too features this streaming blue light. The New Age symbol invented by Foster Bailey has a plethora of symbolic imagery. The symbol, according to Lucis Trust, is set in a limitless field of blue, which signifies the sphere of life expression of our solar Logos, superimposed upon the triangle of New Age forces. It is the five-pointed star of Antichrist. The star is blue because it represents as much of the solar quality to which humanity can respond. You can see this symbol on the front cover of the Lucis Trust Beacon magazine, bottom right, which also displays the blue light of the Logos. In Initiation, Human and Solar, Bailey mentions the five-pointed star as the final two initiations, and it descends upon him, merges in him, and he is seen at its center. The five-pointed star blazes forth, and he enters within the flame. A perfect description of the Luciferic initiation, if there ever was one. This, she says, puts a man in touch with the center in the body of the planetary Logos. What made me realize the significance of Bailey's blue symbology was a short snippet, almost written in passing, in an email sent to a list that I'm on. Blue is Masonic Blue Lodge for blue light Eyes of Horus, the Watcher. The United Nations has blue flags and helmets. Blue is for the occultic blue lips of death. It was sent by Point Man, some of you know him, so I knew it was an important part in their secret symbology. As I started checking into it, I realized he was absolutely right, and I had been working on these Lucis Trust pages at the time, which immediately brought the whole thing into perspective. Quote, "The New World Order must meet the immediate need and not be an attempt to satisfy some distant idealistic vision. The New World Order must be appropriate to a world which has passed through a destructive crisis into a humanity which is badly shattered by the experience. The New World Order must lay the foundation for a future world order which will be possible only after a time of recovery, of reconstruction, and of rebuilding. In the preparatory period for the New World Order, there will be a steady and regulated disarmament. It will not be optional. No nation will be permitted to produce and organize any equipment for destructive purposes or to infringe the security of any other nation. The New World Order must be appropriate to a world which has passed through a destructive crisis. We are concerned with only one subject, the ushering in of the New World Order. The present world order, which is today largely disorder, can be so modified and changed that a new world and a new race of men can gradually come into being. Renunciation and the use of the sacrificial should be the keynote for the interim period after the war, World War II, prior to the inauguration of the New Age." And that's all Alice Bailey, various quotes from various works.
That's what she said.
All 24 books have been electronically indexed and are searchable here.